Stoners of Reddit, how'd your parents find out that you smoke weed? I smoked a huge joint in a car just before my curfew when I was 16. I thought if I sprayed a bunch of Axe body spray it would cover it up, but I just smelled like douchebag and weed. Now I live in Colorado and my parents have been to a dispensary with me to buy CBD topical ointment for arthritis. I don't think they ever had anything strongly against weed. They were just being parents. Ha 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 ha, yeah, IDKY. When we all first started smoking we thought that dousing ourselves in a fragrance would make that shit go away. To be young and high again. Same. I was tired of having to hide it, lol. Yeah dude, I'm sick of hiding being a drug dealer from the police. So just tell them. What a dumbus. I think they sort of just assumed I smoked. Now my dad lives in a legal state and always makes jokes about smoking. I don't know if he's smoking now or if it's a trap. I told my mom 2 years after my last one my sister used to smoke it and my mom didn't care, so when I started smoking it for health reasons, I sliced my hand open when I was 15 trying to cut the garden hose to make a homemade bong. Had to go to the air. Ever heard of a water bottle bong my guy would recommend? My mom never found out, but with my dad I just told him. Now we smoke together. Man, this is the kinda relationship I have with my kids. Horizontal ellipsis. The family dog came home. He'd run away and had been gone for several days when he decides to show back up as I'm hanging out my bedroom window hitting the pipe around midnight. I couldn't just leave him outside, so I go and try to corral him back in the house, but the fucker starts barking. Wakes up my mom and that was that. Damn it, be your own shooters. Stoners of Reddit. What is your best one time when I was high story? We used to go down to an abandoned train station to smoke in my hometown. It was so isolated and huge, which is why it made for the perfect place to go and smoke with friends, skateboard and just generally hang out. So my friend and I were sitting on the edge of the platform smoking a joint and chatting away at about 1 AM. It was so silent and peaceful. No wind blowing, no noise at all. It was a serene moment. While we're blazing, we see a white owl come and land on the platform. My friend and I freak the fuck out. An owl. A white owl. Here, this is on the east coast of South Africa. We don't see many owls, if any. Foodwuck. We were so taken back by this owl. It blew our minds that this majestic creature had chosen to grace us with its presence. It truly must have been our spirit animal reaching out to us in a moment of enlightenment. So my friend pulls out his disposable camera and snaps a shot. We high five. We hug. We smoke another joint in celebration. Minds are blown all over the fucking train station. A few weeks later and we've told everyone about our experience. It was so out of body, man. Such a spiritual experience that cannot be expressed in mere words. Anyway, my friend got his pictures developed and it was a seagull. But it was a fucking sweet seagull. Though, really curious how easy it is to get weed in Africa. Level 3 I fornication 7 points. 5 years ago it's very easy to get weed here. Obviously there is different grades and the price varies greatly, depending on what you want. You can pick up weed off the streets for as little as $0.50 if you aren't too picky. If you want quality, though, it can fetch upwards of about $50 for 10 grams depending on your dealer and the strain of the weed. I get mine for about $30 for 6 grams and it's quite good stuff. The stuff you buy on the streets, though, the cheap stuff, that's mostly sold in bankies, bank Ziploc bags, with no specified weight or strain. But you know that it's always more or less some kind of Malawi, Swazi or Transkei. Damn. I wish it was that cheap where I live. One time when I was high, I had to take a train home after visiting my then boyfriend for a week. We both got stoned beforehand, and he made a point to get me really high so the train ride wouldn't be so brutal and mundane. I ended up being so stoned that I just stared at the train when it stopped at the station, almost missing it until he shoved me through the gate and yelled "Get on the train" repeatedly. I staggered onto the train and plopped myself down on the nearest seat, too stoned to move. The attendants began moving through the aisle to check tickets, and I had no idea why they were being so kind and attentive to me as I tried to comprehend their requests to scan my ticket. A few hours later, when I was finally able to get my mind out of space, I realized I had been sitting in the disabled carriage the whole time. Horizontal ellipsis. I got baked one night out on the beach, as I did many nights. My good friend and I walked down the beach sharing a decent sized blunt. We finished the whole thing and decided to go sit down up on the dunes, which are about 50 yards in from the water. We sit down about 5 feet from each other and spark up a cig. Two guys are walking down closer to the water than us and stop when they get aligned with us. We are so high right now, and it's pretty dark. Plus they are about 30 yards in front of us, we can barely make out their outlines. But we know it's two guys. They stood there just staring at us from afar. They would stare at us for like a minute, then they would look at each other and talk. Couldn't hear what they were saying. They did that for about 10 minutes. My friend and I just sat there, not saying a word. We were so stoned we didn't care. The ocean breeze and the stars and ocean were really fucking with them feels. All of a sudden the two guys start walking towards us, really slowly and making hand gestures. They were making sounds but we couldn't make out the words. The whole time me and my boy are just looking at them. Finally I say, yo man, I know I'm pretty baked, but do you see two dudes walking up to us or am I just tripping? He replies, oh shit, you see them too. I thought I was seeing shit, that's why I didn't say anything. By this time they are about 15 feet from us. I can now clearly see and hear what they are doing. These two dudes thought my friend and I were two stray dogs sitting on the beach. They were patting their thighs and saying, come here boy, come on boy, whistle, come here. It took me about 20 seconds to muster up a what the fuck are you doing, and they ran off. ITHNK we laughed for about 15 minutes after we grasped the whole situation. TLDR my friend and I were mistaken for stray dogs, on a beach, horizontal ellipsis. It was a lazy summer night. So the story begins with that I desperately needed a Taco Bell Baja Blast freeze. After taking a few hits with my brother, this Baja Blast became the reason of my whole existence. After elaborating on about the true godliness of this drink for a good 10 minutes, my brother got the hint and started up the spaceship and we were off on our quest. In high time, the quest took about a couple of years but it was definitely worth it so that I would be able to quench an unquenchable thirst. As we arrived at the drive-thru precisely at 1:23 am, the time seemed so important for forgotten or high reasons. We panicked because we forgot the reason of our quest. But then bam, in all its undeniable glory, behold a Baja Blast, mocking us in its neon lighted form. I grasped at the air but I knew in due time, it would be really in my hands, tangible and beautiful. Fixated on the sign so much, it ended up being the only thing we ordered. Pay attention to this. This detail's important. So as we pull up to the next stop to retrieve our order, a red-eyed, spaced-out clerk handed us the drink and in the brief moment of eye contact, we both understood our current states. And then the clerk said the one thing I'll probably never forget, especially when ordering drive-thru. Do you want some sauce with that? The clerk was still holding and handing us the drink when he said that. A moment passed, and we all just started dying of laughter, including the clerk. As we drove away Dr. Baja Blast freezes other shit. Horizontal ellipsis. I got baked one night out on the beach, as I did many nights. My good friend and I walked down the beach sharing a decent sized blunt. We finished the whole thing and decided to go sit down up on the dunes, which are about 50 yards in from the water. We sit down about 5 feet from each other and spark up a cig. Two guys are walking down closer to the water than us and stop when they get aligned with us. We are so high right now, and it's pretty dark. Plus they are about 30 yards in front of us, we can barely make out their outlines. But we know it's two guys. They stood there just staring at us from afar. They would stare at us for like a minute, then they would look at each other and talk. Couldn't hear what they were saying. They did that for about 10 minutes. My friend and I just sat there, not saying a word. We were so stoned we didn't care. The ocean breeze and the stars and ocean were really fucking with them feels. All of a sudden the two guys start walking towards us, really slowly and making hand gestures. They were making sounds but we couldn't make out the words. The whole time me and my boy are just looking at them. Finally I say, yo man, I know I'm pretty baked, but do you see two dudes walking up to us or am I just tripping? He replies, oh shit, you see them too. I thought I was seeing shit, that's why I didn't say anything. By this time they are about 15 feet from us. I can now clearly see and hear what they are doing. These two dudes thought my friend and I were two stray dogs sitting on the beach. They were patting their thighs and saying, come here boy, come on boy, whistle, come here. It took me about 20 seconds to muster up a "what the fuck are you doing?" and they ran off. ITHNK we laughed for about 15 minutes after we grasped the whole situation. TLDR my friend and I were mistaken for stray dogs on a beach. Fuck dude, those guys must have been higher than you were. Horizontal ellipsis. Me and my friend were high as fuck, so we wanted some McDonald's. We're driving there talking about what we're gonna get. I drive up to the drive-through box, look at the menu, look over to my friend. Dude, we're at fucking Wendy's. Horizontal ellipsis. Go not the most epic high story. That one would literally take half an hour to type, but a good story nonetheless. Me and a few bros were hanging out at my friend's elder brother's apartment back in high school, and decided to smoke up. My friend reveals that he has some tabs on him, so we all take one and wait for it kick in. Fast forward about an hour, and we're doing pretty good. We go outside for cigarette and the friend who brought the tab starts pretending to be a pterodactyl, some sort of dragon, and squealing whenever he exhaled the smoke. When I pointed out that he was smoking the filter, he replied with, "There's still smoke bro." Then he comes up with some crazy theory about how the Jews who were killed in the Holocaust were residing on Pluto. The smoke from the camps carried their spirit into the heavens and now their spirits explore the galaxy in some sort of a kosher Star Trek. We all started talking about the first episode of South Park where Tawili appears. My one friend turns on the TV and the first thing we hear is "You wanna get high at 3 AM. That one episode of South Park was on, and there was much rejoicing. I mean, what are the chances of that?
Thank you.